The MSVR Focus Cup Championship is brought to you in association with Power Maxed. Welcome along to round 2 of the championship here at a somewhat damp Silverstone circuit. The action's going to be hot. Let's have a look at the championship standings after our first event at Donington Park. Scott Parkin, the championship leader, from Gary Mitchell and Spencer Fortak. Simon Rudd is in 4th, and Barry took a moment to catch up with him here today.
How did qualifying go?
Yeah, it is challenging. It was damp out there, so it was a difference between do we go dry, do we go wet, do we go in the middle. We ended up sort of going halfway, and it worked because we're on pole. So I'm really happy with that. Really happy with the outcome there. Just got to now hope that it either rains or it just dries up for the race, I think.
So we just heard race controller pulled the race forward on the circuit by a best part of an hour, which puts added pressure onto everyone. You've got mechanics just prepping the car. What's the situation?
Yeah, so I think I'd prefer it to have stayed where it was. There's just a couple of things we need to do on the car, but hopefully that'll all be sorted, and we'll be there ready to go, even with the timetable being forward.
Always great to see new drivers. Dale, new on the grid for event number 2 there. How have you found out in qualifying?
Yeah, qualifying wasn't so bad. It was just a case of trying to get used to the car again, since it's like new to me. I've been on track for a few years now, so it's just getting back into the swing of it, getting back into the car. But yeah, qualifying wasn't so bad. It's a bit greasy, but we managed to get mid-pack 11th, I think, so see how it turns out in the race, I think.
Now, total newcomer to this championship. What involved you with this, and also your history? I believe you've been doing minis, so quite a bit different in racecraft.
Yeah, it's a different style of driving, especially with these being diesel. It's a completely different game again altogether. But yeah, previously it was 2017 in Mini Challenge, which was good fun, and then since then I've been building an R53 Cooper S ready to race, but we haven't managed to get it finished this year, so I'm decided to come and do a bit of the Focus Cup, which I've been interested in since Sam started it, so it's good to join in and see what it's like, really.
So Tim, I was going to say another new driver on the grid here, but we actually saw you out at Oldham Park last season. Quite different Oldham Park and Silverstone National. How have you got on so far with the qualifying?
Pretty good, to be fair. I'm where I thought I would be for the day, sort of thing, in the middle of the pack. Haven't been out in a car really this year at all, so not got any expectations, but it's a very damp track out there, so there's a lot to be played for in the race, if you see what I mean. So as long as I can get through a few places, we'll be all right. And
mid-pack, as you say, so a good position to start off with. You've also got your mate on the grid. It's going to be sniffing at your heels there, which puts a little bit of added pressure on, maybe.
As long as I'm quicker than him, it doesn't matter. So we'll find out. Yeah, well, we'll find out in a minute, won't we? So we'll let the racing do the talking. But Dale's a good lad, so the battle's here. We're both here to have fun, and that's the whole point of this sort of thing. So, you know, we're both doing guest rounds, so there's no championship to play for. So, you know, a bit of banter afterwards. I think that's all it's about, really, to be honest with you. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, P2 for our second event. Now, the first event was good, but stark contrast, not only with the technicalities of the track, but also the weather.
Yeah. I mean, it's good leveller, is the wet, and yeah, it just seemed to go well. Quality, a bit weird. I didn't really think we'd done that well, and then when we came in, P2. So yeah, happy.
Race 2 at Donny was a good one. Reverse grid, obviously we're on the front end there. It's done well for points overall, but still a long way to go.
Yeah, I made a big mistake at Donington. I was running second, running quite comfortable, and then pulled 6th. At Redgate instead of 4th, coming off Redgate, so a rookie mistake really from an old head, but I'm learning again, I suppose, after 9 years out.
Well, with your experience of what touring cars to autograss, you'll know every weather condition and slippy slidey that there is, but it's all about keeping it to the flag, isn't it, on this one?
Yeah, they are very strange to drive because the diesels, it's a great championship, so I've got to say that. It is brilliant, the guys are brilliant, everybody gets on, but yeah, it's a strange car to drive because you have to keep it just wound up on the turbo. So yesterday, the racing driver in me was going for third in testing on certain corners when you just leave it in fourth and just use the turbo. So it's a strange way of driving, but we'll get there.
Mark Proctor lines up second on the grid. Simon Rudd on pole. Row 2, Lewis Ryan and Charlie Barr, followed by Scott Parkin and Spencer Fortag. Row 4, PJ Gardner and Branko Kiprovski from Gary Mitchell and Simon Waugh. Dale Jameson in 11th from Tim Bill. Then Chris Wallace and Simon Walton. Claire Avis, Robert Morgan, Jonathan Baker, Richard Avis and Simon Watts completing the grid. Championship leader Scott Parkin looks like he's late on parade, but he was racing in the MSVR Track Day Trophy, of which he's a former champion. And because of the rejig timetable that you heard about, he's literally got to sprint from one car into another, and then I think it's going to be a pit lane start for him. So nothing wrong with preparation or anything else, just the timetable here means that he's got to work very, very hard indeed. Here's the view from Spencer Fortag, our race 2 winner at Donington Park. Field looking very good once again. A superb effort from the team to get all these immaculate and lined up really well too. Hats off to all the drivers. Lights off here for race 3 of the 2021 Championship, and a great start from pole. Simon Rudd, the poleman, leads away. Mark Proctor second, but round the outside line comes Lewis Ryan. Charlie Barr side by side with PJ Gardner for 4th place. There in 217 is Dale Jameson. Our first look at the newcomer, ex-Miniman as you heard. A lot of crossovers with Mini in this championship, and Scott Parkin is underway, joins the race from the pit lane. Well, he'll be wanting a safety car, I suspect. We certainly don't, the other drivers don't, but he's got a fair amount of work to do to defend the championship lead that he brought here from Donington Park. 3 wide around Beckett's for the first time. Lewis Ryan is swamped. Gary Mitchell, the Mintex car, the last of them to go through. Spencer Fortag going past as well. So out front, faultless start by Simon Rudd from the outside. Remember, outside his pole here on the National Circuit in Silverstone. Charlie Barr is challenging Mark Proctor. The green car of Barr, Proctor in the Power Max black car. Power Max grateful thanks to them for sponsoring this round. And Procky coming under pressure. He's placing the car in the middle. Kiprovski goes a little bit wide. I'm watching what's happening. Right, there is the car. And in front, there's so much going on. PJ Gardner runs a little bit wide there. That might afford a better momentum run from 44 Gary Mitchell to come through. Spencer Fortag chasing Branko Kiprovski, right on board with Charlie Barr. He's looking at Mark Proctor, and that's the battle for second place. The 37 green car, the Leicestershire driver, 2 8ths and a 9th, betting himself into the championship at Donington Park. Looks at home here in the damp. Through goes Claire Avis in the 71, followed by Richard Avis, and away in the lead is Simon Rudd. Here's the battle for second. Well placed up the inside line. Charlie Barr had a good run out of Maggots, saw the door open, goes through. Mark Proctor would have checked, would have seen him there. PJ Gardner going through as well. Mark Proctor, though, is on the inside line for the next corner because they go around the right-hander at Beckett's and then go into the left-hander at Brooklands at the end of the Wellington Straight, which is what they're on now. Here's Branko Kiprovski, comes out of the slipstream. Hard on the brakes, past the red Mintex car of Gary Mitchell. Side by side is Mark Proctor and PJ Gardner as they go into Brooklands. Good bit of racing between those two. Might be holding themselves up and allowing the second place car of Charlie Barr to get away. Procky keeping it tight now, doesn't want to leave a gap on the inside if he can help it. But equally in the damp, there might be a little bit more grip offline where the rubber hasn't gone down on the racing line. There's more area for the water to drain away off the racing line, which is so often why you see drivers exploring the outside line, trying to find a little bit more grip, whereas the racing line tends to be solid and the water has nowhere to go. Here they come into Copse Corner. Gary Mitchell chasing hard. Mitchell 4th in the career standings, points-wise for this championship. Unofficial, I have to say. I've been donning my anorak to work those out. But this is not an impressive task, I have to say, because the championship is only in its 3rd season. But Gary Mitchell 4th. We'll talk more about career stats later on because PJ Gardner gets a handful of focus lock. Branko Kiprovski nips through and is chasing now Mark Proctor. So Mark Proctor still in 3rd. PJ Gardner working hard down the Brooklands Straight under the bridge that brings you from the outside of the circuit into the National Circuit paddock. So PJ Gardner now coming under pressure from Gary Mitchell. Lewis Ryan looking good there in the K&N Filters 24 car. Got the inside line of Spencer Fortag. Down behind them it's Simon Walton, who is in the mix as well. In car with Lewis Ryan again, looking to explore the outside line, trying to find some grip. He'll want to maybe look at the cutback. There wasn't a cutback as they came through Luffield. He'll look through Woodcote. Now dives out the inside line. Here he comes. Lewis Ryan sees the gap. Spencer Fortag maybe a little bit too late to cover that. He sees him significantly, and through goes Lewis Ryan, the East Yorkshireman, going through. I think he's going to improve on his best result in this championship. It was his first meeting at Donington, so he's going to be an improver. Simon Walton closing up in the Corbeau car. All immaculately branded, these cars, so well presented, so very evenly matched as well. In car with Simon, looking at the rear of Spencer Fortag's car. Spencer driving up today from Rochester in Kent. Tim Bill from Rochester as well. So Simon Walton putting Spencer Fortag under pressure. Spencer runs wide. Again, this is the outside line as they head down to the next corner, but Walton, I think, is going to be clear. The Corbeau car makes the move. Branko Kiprovski still dicing with Mark Proctor. Mark, you can see, takes a slightly wider line there, a little bit defensive, maybe looking for a little bit more grip as he goes through the left-hander at Brooklands, but there's half a gap there for PJ Gardner to go. There was a gap, but it closed up. Branko came across, closed up. Now that one would have to be argued in the Clerk of the Courses office, and through into the lead goes Charlie Barr. A problem for pole position man Simon Rudd. Rudd's car expiring, and now Charlie Barr's got the lead. Mark Proctor in second, PJ Gardner in third. And if that car doesn't move from there, we're going to see a safety car. Now going back to that move that we saw, there was a gap, and that will be PJ's line if he has to talk to the Clerk of the Course. Branko Kiprovski came across and bang into the back of Gardner. Was that visibility or retribution? I don't know. We'll have to get the word from the guys themselves about that. I personally don't think Branko would go for a deliberate hit because you're damaging your own car. So maybe visibility. There's lots of spray on circuit. The wipers can't always deal with it, but waved yellow flags. The pole position man Simon Rudd is off. Safety car being deployed. Crew's getting ready to rescue the car of Simon Rudd, which expired whilst in the lead. A major story here. Let's hope that Simon will be out for race 2. Meanwhile, Scott Parkin, of course, was racing in the track day trophy. He was late on parade here, not through any fault of his own, but the timetable change. So this is a montage of Scott's working his way through the field. One pass after another. Not only did he catch the field, but he got stuck into the traffic and made a series of superb passes to make his way through the field. He's closing out here on Richard Avis. We get a little wave. Thanks, Richard. All clear. Simon Moore next in the Liquid Molly car. Goes through on the inside line. So plenty of places made. Past Dale Jameson as well, our new driver. And the opportunity to make more. We were sort of half joking we said it. Didn't really want a safety car, but good news for Scott Parkin, who is maybe in with a shout of a podium. He's got a fair amount of work still to do. But stranger things have happened in Focus Cup Championship racing. There is Branko Kiprovski. I think it's fair to say that all the drivers have survived tank slappers at some point in this race. The safety car lights, as you can see, have been switched off. And that means that we're about to go Focus Cup racing again. We're on board with the second place car of Mark Proctor. Charlie Barr trying to get some heat into the tyres. Also maybe looking in his mirrors to see when he can catch Mark Proctor off guard and floor it and get away, get the best possible restart. I don't know if he's been in this position before in his other championships. He won't have been in this position in Focus Cup. In car with Scott Parkin for the restart. Branko Kiprovski ahead of him. As we've seen, Branko's not an easy man to pass on. As you get further up the field, the overtakes get harder and harder. But we are racing again here at Silverstone on the national circuit. There is the Powerflex car of championship leader Scott Parkin putting Branko Kiprovski under pressure, coming up into the Maggots-Beckett's complex. This is the inside line he's going for at Maggots, the left-hand kink. And Branko, if he can hold on, will have the inside for the next part, which is the right-hander around Beckett's. Branko read that well. Spencer Fortag on the outside line will chop back in and try and block Scott Parkin, but you can see I think Scott has managed to get the nose of the 13 car up the inside line. Meanwhile, this is Gary Mitchell being chased from on board with Lewis Ryan. This is for third place. Mark Proctor second at the moment. So Mitchell third, Ryan fourth, Branko Kiprovski going for fifth place on the inside line of PJ Gardner. Those two continue their battle. Scott Parkin coming up in the mix as well, in car with Lewis Ryan. You can see they're all getting handfuls of lock. Ryan having to run a little bit wide. Let's watch the right hand side of the picture to see if anyone nips up the inside line. Well, we have to look the other way because it's Mitchell that goes off onto the dirt, runs wide, scrubs off some speed, and that allows Lewis Ryan back up into position. So Ryan back up into third. Could be a maiden podium here in only his second meeting in Focus Cup. This race, incidentally, the first in the championships. Oh, and sideways for Branko Kiprovski, and Scott Parkin will sail around the outside line. Armfuls of lock. We've seen so many drivers having to cope with that. But again, Branko's still going in car with Gary Mitchell. So Gary in the red 44 car just going through shot now. Scott Parkin still behind him. Spencer Fortag busy chasing PJ Gardner. This has been a fascinating race to watch. So PJ Gardner chasing Branko Kiprovski down the Wellington Straight again. Don't think close enough to make a move. Charlie Barr looking very good indeed here at the moment. Now we've got to change for second because Mark Proctor has been passed by Lewis Ryan, and Scott Parkin's going for it as well, but gets a big tank slapper on as he goes into Brooklands, but again, as everybody else before him has done, collects it up, barely loses ground. Gary Mitchell getting stuck in. Mitchell looking for third place from Mark Proctor. So the battle between the red 44, the Power Max 66 side by side for third place. A bit further back, Simon Walton and Simon Watts engaged in their own battle. Wherever you look, there are cars dicing. This is what the championship's about, and of course this is an accessible championship. If you're watching this and thinking I'd like to come in and have a go, you can get in touch with Simon Walton and the team and join us on the grid. Gary Mitchell working hard now to try and get past Mark Proctor. Scott Parkin's got through. He did make it to a potential podium. So Parkin, the car we're looking at in front, is up into third place from a pit lane stone last start. Granted, he'll have the adrenaline running from that previous race that in the track day trophy championship, but what a drive by the championship leader. Absolutely superb, and indeed great driving standards from many of the other drivers who have put on a great race in difficult conditions. We're in car with PJ Gardner. Spencer Fortag makes the move past him. Mark Proctor under pressure for fourth place again. Mark Proctor's driven some great defensive stuff in this race by my mind. Branko Kiprovski still getting stuck in. We've seen some great entertainment from him as well. Surprised the car's not damaged with the contact it had earlier on. If it is, it's not showing. And Branko racing hard as they come out of Woodcote for the last time. And the win goes to Charlie Barr. Lewis Ryan second, Scott Parkin third. Listen to Charlie Barr. The bar has been raised, and Charlie Barr, congratulations Charlie on your first win in Focus Cup. Only his third race in the championship. The Team Dynamics alloy wheels car taking the win. Lewis Ryan was in second place from Scott Parkin and Mark Proctor. Gary Mitchell fifth from Spencer Fortag and Dale Jameson. Great debut for him in seventh. Simon Waugh eighth from Tim Bill and Robert Morgan. Then Claire Avis 11th from Jonathan Baker, Richard Avis, Simon Watts, Simon Walton 15th from Branko Kiprovski and PJ Gardner. Fastest lap, Scott Parkin.
Victory there, just tell us about it from your point of view.
Yeah, it was a good race. Simon got a good start and obviously started to pull away, but once I got past Mark into second, I got a good gap on him. Obviously Motorsport has its demons, and unfortunately that happened to Simon with a turbo failure, so put me up to first place quite comfortably. I felt happy, and then obviously because Simon had stopped on the pit straight, safety car came out, everyone bunches back up, and I thought, right, okay, never done a safety car start before, so you know, got a good gap to Mark again, and it was sort of wet at this side of the circuit, not as, you know, the rain wasn't as hard that side, so every lap I was sort of the guinea pig, didn't really know where I should be, but yeah, managed to keep it in front. Lewis and Scott were a lot faster towards the end of the race. I had a big moment on the last corner, and was just very happy to see the checkered flag.
Pre-safety car, your mirrors were full of cars. It was all about the battle for third. You may or may not have noticed. As you say, with that closed-in gap, it was game on as soon as that the green flag went.
Yeah, I knew, I could see in my mirrors, obviously I was quite comfortable to third, but I could see they were all having a dice, so I knew that, well, when second became first for me, I knew that I had to make a decent safety car start and hope that by the time we got to the first corner it was Mark that was getting the pressure rather than me, and yeah, it worked out.
Great for points as well.
Yes, I qualified fourth, finished the race first. I don't know what points that is, but yeah, it should take me up the leaderboard.
And of course, with this format, race 2, you're going to change around a little bit on the grid.
Yeah, I'll be starting 6th. You know, it's we're all quick out there. We're all fair, so it should be some good racing. Don't know what the weather's going to do, but yeah, it should be fun.
Halfway through that race, it was all about the battle for third position. Really, that's where the action was. What was it like from the driving seat?
It was a very good race. Changed quite a lot throughout the race with the sort of constant drizzle. Sort of mid-race there was a good dry line that was kind of coming through, and then it would go off in the next because there would be a bit more rain, and it was quite a complicated race, to be honest.
Now, as we come into this, it's only the second event. First event you did pretty well. You were 10th position as we arrived here, so obviously now with that's points in the bag.
Yeah, very happy. Third in qualifying as well yesterday, so yeah, really good weekend so far.
Now, to me, that looked very challenging conditions out there. Totally different from Donington, not only because it's a different technical circuit, a little bit flatter, but obviously we've got very slippy conditions.
Yeah, completely different to Donington. You know, I was just kind of finding my feet at Donington with a nice flowing track that was nice and dry. Come here, a bit more sort of tight and twisty and absolutely wet through. So yeah, completely different.
And as you come into the latter part of the lap, you even had Mr. Parkin in your mirrors as well, who moved up amazingly, and the action was all around that inner complex, I think.
I did. I was glad to see the checkered flag. I felt quick at the end of the race, but I was checking my mirrors and he was coming quick. So yeah, glad to see the flag.
Now, as normal, we reshuffle again for race 2 coming up in a little while. How do you feel about going out for that one?
Yeah, all good. 5th on the grid, so happy with my start in the first race. Car felt quick, so yeah, just try and get another podium. See how we go on.
You were 10th position as we arrived here, so obviously now with that's points in the bag.
Yeah, very happy. Third in qualifying as well yesterday, so yeah, really good weekend so far.
Scott, this has got to be the story of the day so far. So, race 1, everyone's getting ready. Race control, for various reasons, pulls the race forward, and you're out doing a track day championship, and you still got a podium.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best result we could have expected with the circumstances. Rushing down the paddock, saw the garage were empty, right, they're in the assembly area, heard the cars going to the grid, so I'm like, right, this is the worst thing that could have happened, you know, you need to be in the car at the right time. So there's a pit lane start. I got to the end of the pit lane, belts on, everything sorted, and the marshal says, when the green light goes, you can go. Right, then the marshal stands in front of the light, moves out of the way, and it's on green, so right to it, sets off, cold tyres, cold brakes, everything sliding all over. Conditions were pretty similar to qualifying, a little bit damp in places, a little bit of a dry line, so yeah, did pretty well getting through some of the guys towards the back of the field, and then safety car, which helped me because it bunched the pack up, because I think the first 2 or 3 guys had a pretty decent lead.
And you came into this event leading the championship on points by 3 or 4 points there. So a great effort, still get those points, obviously that podium. I was watching on all the way through the race, obviously progressing. On that last lap, coming through that inner complex there, big drift on sideways and so forth. Proctor nearly nipped it past you there as well, but fantastic way to finish race 1. Hopefully slightly less pressure for your race 2.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's going to be some, because the order was shuffled around a little bit, I think there is going to be some quicker guys starting in front. And to be fair, this morning, if you looked at the qualifying times, it was so tight at the top. You know, everybody's quick in here in that sort of group. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting race. Definitely going to try and get as many points as possible, because I think the 5th qualifying that I did this morning is going to have hurt me points-wise in the championship, because there's big points for the qualifying as well. But we'll just see what happens. You know, it's a long championship. You know, we've got quite a few more races, so it's not won in the first 2 races. But it's always nice to be sort of up there fighting for it early on. So, yeah.
Time now for the celebrations after race 1. We'll be back after the break with race 2.
We've seen you join the Focus Cup for this championship, but just tell us how you got to arrive on the grid and what the story behind it.
The story behind it, I find it very attractive, very competitive. There was some ex-BTCC drivers and some of the actual drivers. And that was the bite for me, you know, because I moved here in UK to chase my career, my dream, I can say. I'm too old for dreaming, but yeah, I'm still there. And here I am on the track on Silverstone. I can't believe it, but it's happening.
So you're here for the full season, and what's your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal, it was on the start, you know, to try to hit for the championship title, but it's very difficult. As soon as I came on Donington, I realized there is a very competitive drivers here, and it's going to be very, very difficult season. I find a few very hard drivers, which is really difficult to fight with. But I will take my elbows out and I'll give my best. You know, the biggest names of motorsport, they said, if there is a gap, you have to find, you know, and you have to go for it. I feel that and I'm giving that. It's simple.
Okay, so race 2 coming up. The grid is going to be partially reversed, so there's even more competitive at the front end to go for.
Of course, I think it's much easier when you are chasing somebody than to be chosen. And this time, probably I finished 5th, as I remember, and I'll be 2nd on the second race, which gives me opportunity, but it gives me a lot of pressure as well at the same moment.
Silverstone National Circuit, it's the first time you've been here, isn't it?
Absolutely, first time. Yesterday it was pretty strange, but you know, I was just trying. It helps because I have you know, online mentor who is helping me a lot, Renner Motorsport, and he basically shows me the most important things. But it's still different when you're on a track. You have to focus and to find the grip, to find the right lines. You know, where you have to position the car, where to set the brake points. Yeah, it's still difficult for me, you know, about tire pressures and everything. But I think with everything, with what happens till now, I am on the pace and I'm very happy having all these guys around, you know.
So it's not only about talented driving and seeing how far you can get, but it's about the team behind you, the management team. So who's helped put you here?
Absolutely, I'm very pleased to be supported by Tim Sagden and his Purple Dot Performance. Which makes me a lot of confidence, and yeah, there is Kili and Tim in person. They're doing great job, you know. Support me through all my races and the plans for the next steps. And I just want to say a big thank you to all Focus Group and these mechanics, the guys. You can see it. They're doing excellent job. If they're not here, we can do nothing of this. Thank you so much.
So Claire, we caught up with you at Donington. Yourself and Richard there, totally different racing conditions here at Silverstone. How have you found it so far?
It's been a bit slippery at times, but I have to say not too bad. That qualifying and race 1, not too bad really for grit. So I've also got my car set up nice. So yeah, good.
And dare I say it, 2 places above Richard.
Yes, I have to admit he did have problems, but you know, it's all good for the morale.
Oh, how polite. When you said it was a little bit slippy, it got a little bit treacherous out there at one point. Coming through that in the compound before the start-finish straight, it was slippy for most.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a wobble a couple of times, but I managed to find a dry line through. So and battling quite a lot with a couple of the other cars. Baker, I think, at number 10, and yeah, managed to hold my own and get through safely. So yes.
So next race, do you start in a predetermined race position, or the fact you've had a couple of positions from Richard, are you now in front of him? Where do you start?
So they split the grid into 6s and then they reversed those 6s. So I finished in 13th, I now start in 17th. So Richard, I believe, is ahead of me on the grid. I think he's actually on the row right in front of me. So.
And you're teaching some of these wet lines?
Am I teaching him? Yes.
So Robert, we first saw you out at Donington Park, which is a fairly decent event, but we've seemed to have excelled even more as we come to Silverstone.
Yeah, Donington was a challenge. During qualifying, I put the car down, crane of curves on the first lap and ruined my tyres, and it's pretty much over for that session, for the whole race basically. So we started at the rear and finished at the rear. I was very disappointed with myself, but it's the first time out in the car, and I ran out of skill, but it's fun though. It was fun, and we had a little bit of a race with one of the chaps at the back as well. So it wasn't complete disaster. It was more fun than trying to make anything out of the race.
Motor racing is never cheap, doesn't matter what level you go in at, and I suppose a championship such as this comes into its own, especially after COVID, because it's a reasonable budget and it's sort of capped at things, but at least you're on equal power terms and so forth with the rest of the grid.
Yeah, that's actually one of the benefits of the Focus Cup. Actually, I like the idea it's just arrive and drive. You've got defined costs. You've got to keep it on the track, and it is actually quite a cost-effective way to come racing.
So the Focus Cup took you, you've got involved with this now, you're here for the season. Now the calendar's a pretty packed one, takes you some of the best circuits that there are. So does it take long to get used to the circuits? And obviously you seem to favour the flat-out version such as this so far, and even in these conditions.
Yeah, I think the circuits, you don't forget. Your brain doesn't forget, even from doing the Ginetta. You know what the racing lines are, or certainly when you're qualifying and testing. But the race is completely different. It is a free-for-all for the first corner. It's trying to keep out of difficulty the first couple of corners. And, whatever theory is out there has gone out the window, basically. You just want to keep your foot down and keep out of the way as much as possible. All the cars are equally matched. And it is about driver skill, and there are some very, very talented chaps on this grid, very talented. And you think, well, I can follow them to see what they're doing, but you can you're open to all sorts of problems if you try to keep up with them. You run out of talent very quickly.
On race 2, P1, how are you feeling so far?
Yeah, I couldn't be happier. We're at Silverstone, it's May, it's freezing cold, it's wet, but yeah, I'm happy to be starting from P1. It's a track that I know well. So yeah, looking forward to a good race. It's important to get the points in the bank, but yeah, looking forward to a good race. And the spread of times in race 1 was like 7 tenths between the top 10. So it's testament to the series really, to see how closely the cars are matched, and more importantly, how closely the drivers are matched.
Now, as you heard Claire Avis mention earlier on, the grid is effectively split into groups of 6, and each of those groups are reversed. So Spencer Fortang and Gary Mitchell on the front row. The second group of 6 headed by Claire and Jonathan Baker. And then the third group by TJ Gardner and Branko Kiprovski, with non-finishers Simon Rudd and Chris Wallace at the back of the grid. Well, the news from the paddock is that we do have Simon Rudd on the grid. They weren't able to fix the car, but Simon goes out in the Momo 27 car, starting from the back of the grid. So well done to all concerned. You can see the car actually there just beneath the mirror towards the right of shot, the Momo 27. So Simon Rudd has been given another car and he's ready to go. And that's another great thing about this championship. If they can get you out in a car, they will. Lights are on, ready for race 2 of the weekend. Race 4 of the season. Looks like a good start. There's more water around, I think, than race 1. But Gary Mitchell in red leads from the inside. Pole position was the outside number 4, Spencer Fortag. And they go through the spray, down into Copse Corner for the first time. 3 wide there with Richard Avis on the outside line. Mark Proctor in the spray, starts third. Scott Parkin to his outside in the Powerflex car. Into Maggots for the first time, up to Beckett, Spencer Fortag leading. This is what he did at Donington Park, remember, taking the race reverse grid race win. I've got to say, the idea of splitting the grid into sections and reversing those sections, that innovation, as far as I know, totally with Focus Cup. Well done to them for another piece of innovation. It's a super bit of championship design, as Fortag still leads from Mitchell. Mark Proctor challenging Charlie Barr, or is it the other way around? Charlie looking at the outside line, but Mark Proctor again will look in his mirrors. You'll see Charlie having a go. He knows that he's got the 66 car clear, so comes across working hard. I think grabbed a little bit of curb there. Charlie Barr working hard as well. It was a delight to see that on board of him crossing the line and being as thrilled as he was. So the first race win for Charlie. I suspect that we may well see some more. He's all over the back of Mark Proctor at the moment. looks to the outside line, no weaving from Procky, he'll move across. You're allowed one move across the track. Richard Davis there in the 77 just going through shot. Richard, by the way, I can't remember if I mentioned it in race one, no, it was Frenetic, is the top career point scoring driver in the championship since it started in 2019. It's only the third season, but it's nice to keep an eye on that. And Richard, one of several drivers that have raced all 3 seasons in this wonderful championship, and this is the first time that they've raced on the national circuit. Last year in August raced on the Grand Prix circuit when it was Andy Godfrey who went on to become champion, who took pole position and the points that go with that. He also won the reverse grid race from Simon Walton and Richard Davis. Richard Davis a double podium finisher last year and fastest lap in race 2. There is Simon Rudd, who has passed Tim Bill, so Simon making progress, looking to do a Scott Parkin here. And Scott Parkin, the other winner last year, won race 1 on the Grand Prix circuit and sets the lap record in race 1 this weekend with a 1:16.112, 77.59 miles an hour in the wet. Good lap time from him. It is wetter. I don't think that time is going to be eclipsed in this particular race, so Simon could well go away as Silverstone national record holder. I think he's got the GP record as well. I think race 1 was quicker than race 2 last year. So anyway, enough of the stats. And in car with Branko Kiprovski, who, as we said, did pick up a penalty, as did PJ Gardner in race number 1. There was a little bit of contact between the two. And whether it's intentional or not, the race officials will look at that and deal with it. It was great to hear that interview with Branko as well. Tim Sugden, as you heard, his mentor, as this scrap for the lead continues, as Scott Parkin looks for the lead down the inside line of Spencer Fortag. Side by side still for the lead. Fortag on the outside as they go into Brooklyn. Scott Parkin in the Powerflex car is going to try and go through, but Fortag holding on well. Parkin knows that time is on his side. He also knows he's got the fastest lap, working the wheel there. Outside line. Is there more grip on the outside? Is he going to go for the cutback? In car, it looked like he might. Now he's starting to come offline. Looks down the inside, gets a good run out of Woodcote. They'll go across the line. It'll be a lap lead shown for the number 4 Spencer Fortag, but through goes Scott Parkin into the lead. Parkin through. Look at Spencer, very cool about that. He will try and maybe learn from the 13 car, try and reel him in if he possibly can. But Scott Parkin looking to, I think, be the first double race winner this year if he can pull away. Gary Mitchell and Mark Proctor behind the leading trio. I was going to say leading pair. Very nearly forgot about Charlie Barr, who goes through in green. So the Power Max car of Mark Proctor in 5th place. 4th position ahead of him in red is Gary Mitchell. Lewis Ryan is behind them as well. So in car with Mark Proctor. I reckon that the lap record established by Scott Parkin will remain intact. It does look that much wetter than race number 1. So in car with Simon Waugh, regular in the championship, 50-year-old from Colchester, and Dale Jameson chasing at the moment. That's Claire Avis. Claire, one of our top career point scoring drivers in the championship. 508 career points by my maths, 5th in the table behind Gary Mitchell. Simon Waugh 3rd. Simon Watt 2nd top scorer. Richard Davis is the man with the most career points under his belt at the moment on 612. We'll update them for you later in the season if any of you are interested, but it's nice to keep a tab on that for the drivers concerned, as Scott Parkin leads from Spencer Fortag. Charlie Barr looking racy at the moment in 3rd, takes a wide line there, drops back a little bit, but he's going to be looking for momentum onto the Wellington Straight. And here we go, here's the proof of that. Round the outside line, Charlie Barr did find some grip and take 2nd position. The Team Dynamics car into 2nd. Spencer Fortag again, very cool, looks in his mirror, where's the next challenge coming from? And the answer is that it's going to be Gary Mitchell in red, followed by Mark Proctor and Lewis Ryan. Into Brooklands, the top 6 that got reversed. Incidentally, 7th position where he started is the blue car of John Baker, having a very good run as well, so fair play to John Baker. Could be a first top 10 finish with very early days. I don't want to put the curse of the commentator on John Baker in blue, but looking pretty handy at the moment. His best result last time out at Donington was 11th, and qualifying today was 17th, but made up a lot of ground in race number 1. Mitchell and Proctor still very much having their scrap as they go around Copse Corner, and Proctor here, that onboard, you just get the sense of a bit of a challenge coming here, a little bit of extra speed perhaps being carried as they come into Maggots. Race leaders through, battle is on for 4th place. Mark Proctor does tee him up, goes on the inside line, gets his nose into 4th place, but remember there might be grip around the outside line. Okay, Mitchell has to go wide and bounces over the curbs. Mark Proctor's on the inside. Here's the view from Gary Mitchell. Place lost, but will fight back again. Look at the eyes in the mirror, very much focused on the road in front. Mitchell's going to try and have another go at Mark Proctor as they come down the Wellington Straight, the end of the Wellington Straight into Brooklands. Just listening to Gary on the throttle, all very controlled, trying the inside line. Mark Proctor not defending. He probably feels there's a wee bit more grip. He'll know from the first couple of laps, the reconnaissance lap they do as well coming out, where there might be a little bit of extra grip on the outside line, but not going defensive at all, Mark Proctor, because he's looking for that extra speed. Dale Jameson and Claire Avis, they're having a good old scrap here. These two dicing for 14th position, 15th position, I think at the moment. Yeah, 15th, those two. Richard Avis on the outside line of Simon Waugh. So Richard hopefully having a happier race than he had in race number 1. Let's see what the liquid Monte car of Simon Waugh, brother of Luke Waugh, also a Focus Cup Championship regular. And Tim Bill in the mix as well. Richard Avis has a moment, runs wide, loses a couple of places. Not Richard's day, is it? Multiple podium finisher in this championship before. I can't remember if I told you he was on the podium twice when we were on the GP circuit here last year. But Silverstone today, not his track, as Luke Waugh continues to try and hunt down Tim Bill onto the Wellington Straight, which I think he used to call the National Straight. Some circuits feel the need to change names a great deal, as Gary Mitchell on the inside line again of Mark Proctor. Let's just watch Mark. You can see he starts to ease away, has a little bit more grip or a little bit more momentum out of the corner, more speed carried out of the corner, maybe because of that wider line, and starts to get away. And of course now we've got Lewis Ryan in the mix as well. Lewis all over the back of Gary Mitchell's car. Scrub that, he's down the inside. He saw a gap, had the speed, going for it into Copse Corner. They're side by side. Keep your eyes on the left hand of shot. There comes Gary Mitchell back into it, still side by side, and he's on the outside. As you can see, there is some speed to be had there. It is the long way round, but as they come up into Maggots, is it going to be Lewis Ryan that gets his nose in front? He does. Lewis Ryan makes the position up. John Baker coming up to play as well, and then it is Simon Rudd in the mix. The watch for the black and yellow, the Momo 27 car has come through, setting some very good laps is Simon Rudd at the moment. In car with Gary Mitchell, so lost sight now, immediate sight of Mark Proctor. So Mark Proctor into 4th place and up into 5th, I should say. Lewis Ryan, as Mark Proctor now without the 44 car behind him, could perhaps think about having a little nibble at Spencer Fortak, who is going wider as Mark Proctor was in the earlier laps. So Spencer Fortak from Mark Proctor. Mark looking for, this is only his 2nd meeting with the Focus Cup Championship, looking for a maiden podium. That's potentially what he's battling for there. Meanwhile, the battle for 15th is still alive, and Dale Jameson working hard here with Claire Avis, takes a wide line as they come out of Luffield into Woodcote, trying to gain momentum to maybe have a look through on the inside line. 217 cars. It's been a good debut from Dale Jameson for sure. 7th in race number 1. Pops a move down the inside line. You can see Simon Waugh in the distance, and they're still side by side. And Claire Avis, good clean racing. That's a classic Silverstone pass, to be absolutely fair. Good clean racing, wonderful stuff from the pair of them. Claire though of course knows that there's now going to be a gap on the inside and we'll come back and have a go. It looks to me like Dale maybe has got it sorted out. Claire closing up as they go through Maggots, but I think has outbraked herself in the wet, off in the gravel. Through will go hubby Richard Davis. There goes Richard on his way through. Now, is Claire stuck in the gravel? That's going to require maybe marshal power to extricate her from the gravel, as onto the last lap comes race leader Scott Parkin, untroubled. Across the line they go. Now Simon Rudd in 27's just set the fastest lap. He looks on the inside line of John Baker. Rudd's got the fastest lap of the race. A new car to him. It just shows how very evenly matched they are, that you can jump into a spare car, set the fastest lap of the race. Marshals, as ever, great bravery, great commitment to get Claire out of harm's way. The race leaders, now Mark Proctor's up to third. Proctor's now third. Ryan fourth, Spencer Fortag down in fifth place, then Gary Mitchell, but Mark Proctor has come through into third place. He was past them before he got to the yellow flag zone for sure. When we last saw him heading down towards Copse, I think he was about to make a move. But Claire Avis' car pushed away thanks to the marshal. Super work as ever. So this is the group for third place. Fortag coming under pressure from Gary Mitchell, and it's Proctor ahead of them in third. John Baker in the mix as well. Simon Rudd has come through from seventh from the back of the field. He's done a Scott Parkin here. And if there's a vote for driver of the day, you have to say that jumping into a brand new car, superb for him. But here is the race leader and race winner. It's a win for Scott Parkin, second win of the year. Charlie Barr makes it first and second today. Mark Proctor, a maiden Focus Cup podium in third from Lewis Ryan and Spencer Fortag. Gary Mitchell in sixth. Simon Rudd, seventh, holds on to fastest lap as well. Then it was Jonathan Baker in 8th place from TJ Gardner. Branko Kiprovski comes through to complete the top 10. You can see the delight from the drivers. There's confirmation of your top 10. I just echo that Simon Rudd got the fastest lap. It wasn't quite as quick as Scott Parkin's lap in race number 1. 11th goes to Robert Morgan from Tim Bill and Simon Waugh. 14th, Chris Wallace from Dale Jameson, Richard Davis and Simon Watts.
So Scott, after the first 2 laps, that looked like pretty plain sailing compared to race 1.
Yeah, I think compared to race 1, I think if this were just the first race, I'd say we still had a couple of battles. So managed to get a good start, but everybody else in front did as well. And then Mark, I found out in Park Fermi, he just missed third gear, so then I got on him. Then the guys were quite cautious. I thought they were going to be cautious in front. I was probably too cautious. So then Mark got down the inside of me again. And then we had a few battles for a few laps. Managed to get really close to Spencer. And then just managed to pick him off. He didn't defend too hard, which I've said to him in Park Fermi. He needs to defend a little bit more aggressively than he did, because it was pretty straightforward. I had quite a bit better drive out the corners than he did, trying different lines and managed to find the grip. So yeah, pretty plain sailing then.
So not a bad weekend at all. First place and a second place, all good for points and good racing too.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. I qualified fourth. First race, obviously won it, and that race managed to get through, keep out of trouble, and bring it home second. So yeah, very ecstatic. If you'd have told me it this morning, I wouldn't have believed you.
A good race, that one.
Yeah, I mean, we had the setup in race 1 was wrong. The car was on full stiff, which was no good in them conditions. Not my mistake, but it's one of those things. Mistakes happen, and that's fair enough. But it was put right for that race, and so it was like learning to drive the car in the wet again, because I'd not had that sort of setup. But yeah, lost a couple of places and then got them back. So yeah, happy with the third. It's my dad's birthday today, so happy birthday. I wanted to give him a podium for his birthday, so that was happy days. Yeah.
Scott Parkin continues to lead the championship. A tie for second between Spencer Fortag and Gary Mitchell, and a 3-way tie for fourth, Charlie Barr, Simon Rudd and Mark Proctor. Join us at Castle Combe for the next action from this wonderful championship.